Hello and g'day! Today's video is the Faux vintage postage stamps. They're bigger than most. They can even be book page size. My name's Donna. These big postage stamps can be glued straight into your journal, or you can use them as journal cards. I've used this book here. I got this book from the op shop. It was $1. Have a look at the pages. Every single page, every bit of the page I can use. I was really lucky. I couldn't believe it when I saw this book. I thought, oh, look at this. The minute I saw this rose here, I knew I could use it as a giant stamp. So first off, we're going to cut out the image. So I've taken the page out of the book and I'm just cutting out the image in the shape of the stamp. So I've got that cut out and I'll put this away so I can make some more stamps later. So now I'm going to cut out the background. For this one, I'm using vintage newsprint. Now, Marthy sent me this from the Netherlands. This is French newsprint. Have a look at this little pile. It's so lovely. Thank you, Marthy. I really appreciate it. It's perfect for this. 1927. It's nearly 100 years old. I cut out, well, actually I ripped a background piece and it's a little bit big for this page. See, it's a bit too snug. It needs resizing. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put the rose down in the bottom corner and I'm just going to take some off two sides. You don't need to do it all the way around all four. Now see how I'm ripping it? I'm ripping it down this way, not this way. And that's so I can get a more jagged edge. I deliberately want that jagged edge. If I ripped it up the other way, it would be too neat a rip. So I'll put it back on and now I only have to rip down one side. So I'm going to use a ruler only as a guide. You could do a freehand rip, but this is really old paper, so I just want to give it a little bit of a guide. And now that's resized. And I've done that by only tearing down two sides. That's much better. I can also cut down the rose image itself and make it smaller if I wanted to see more of the newsprint. So we'll distress ink the edges. I'm using Vintage Photo. That's my go-to colour. And I'm only doing the very edges. I'm not putting a lot of colour up into the middle of the image. Now, I don't need to do a lot of distress inking on this because the image itself is already got the colour on it. That's just how it was in the book. So that looks pretty good. Now all I have to do is distress ink the edge of the newsprint. Be careful not to push too hard because any papers that you use that are vintage are so fragile and they'll push up and crease. So take your time. You're just putting a little bit of colour just to complement this newsprint. Now I'm ready to glue it in. I'm going to glue the top piece, the rose, onto the bottom piece, the newsprint. I'm using Art Glitter Glue. That is the brand name of the glue. It is a very strong glue. It dries clear. You only need a very thin bead. I put it just about between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch inside away from the edge. Very thin line around the border and then my squiggly lines all across the middles. Don't overuse your glue, you don't need to, especially a good quality glue like this. And just glue that into place. And you'll know that you haven't overused your glue because not one bit of glue leaked out when I pressed this down. Now I've just got some tea-dyed paper here and I've folded them in half. So I'll put it on the inside one this time just so that I can use it on another page, and I'll glue it in here. You can glue it down totally flat, or you can glue it so that these edges are fluffed up a bit. Isn't this newsprint just beautiful? It's so old and gorgeous, it's a shame to glue it down, but I've got some more and I'll plan on using it somewhere else. There's plenty there, and I just can't keep it forever and just look at it. I'm a big believer in using what you've got. I'm not one of those people to just hang on to things and not use it. So we'll get it in there. I like to stay away from here a little bit just in case I do need to trim that up when I put it in my book, when I start sewing things in. Every now and again you've got to trim this back just a tiny bit. So that's glued in. Now my cancellation stamps. I've chosen some big ones. So this one here it says Royal Post Service. And this is the biggest one I have in the wavy lines. You can make your own stamps as well. Just make something like this out of the foam. I've made these ones using the oversized alphabet. You can do exactly the same and just make these wavy cancellation lines. But what I'm going to do with this, just so that I don't get these ends in, because I don't want them, I just want the oversized circle. I'll show you a tip to do that. This one here is pretty good as well. It's got what's it say? I'm not even going to read it, but it's just an interesting stamp, and there's a little round one. So these are the ones I'm going to use because they're the biggest ones that I've got in my stash that I could use, that are even slightly big enough to work with this oversized stamp. So first off, I'll show you how I'm going to get rid of those two ends. So I'm going to use a piece of sticky note paper, and that's the sticky part. I'm just going to cut that strip off. I'm just blocking them out in line with that circle. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because when we put these stamps on our work, they're never like properly stamped. We intentionally stamp them on a bit rough so that it is a hit and miss. So we don't want that one on there just now. So that's blocked out. You've got to sort of decide which one you want to put down first. So I might put this one down first. I'm not going to ink it up too much, make it too solid. So I might put that there, a hit and a miss. Now to go for this big one. Put some ink on it. Now I've blocked that out, I'm going to take that off. And I'll take that one off, because I don't want to transfer that ink onto here, and it's not going to stamp. So we can just roughly stamp that there, and that adds a bit of interest. Take that one off. Pop this one on. You can come across here, or you can bring it back to here. You can put it wherever you think it's going to fit and balance in with your work. If you think it's too much and you don't even need it, don't put it on. Just leave it. I'm not going to put it on for the minute. Just going to stamp it off here and put it aside for a second just to see whether I even need it. And I'll put this little one on. And where would that go? That might look good there. There you go. I'm not sure whether I'll need it. I'll have a think about it. If I was to put it on, I'm thinking it might start to look a bit much. So this is the next stamp that we're going to make. It's not quite as big as this one. It's a little bit smaller. And instead of using the ripped newspaper on the back to back it, we're going to use the pinking shears. Now the pinking shears are just a pair of scissors with a zigzag edge. Okay, so I'm just going to leave myself enough room around here to use these scissors. So we'll start off by cutting a straight line up this way, matching up those zigzags. I've only just got enough paper here because of that rip. When I colour this, I usually do it laying down. You can do it like that if you want. If you want to get those tips really dark, you can. See how dark they are? So you can do it like that. And you can come in, if you've got the glass mat, it always does a better job. But these are glue mats. And they work all right. I just clean them off when I'm done. So I'm just using circular motion, starting off the mat and then coming onto my paper, being careful not to bend up those zigzag lines. So I've got my edge all distressed, and that looks a whole lot better now than this lighter piece. You wouldn't know it was the same piece. That's why I didn't mind using this lighter piece of tea-dyed paper. Even though it was ripped, you would never know. You can, if you wanted to, we can come in and rough up these edges a little bit and get another look entirely, which is probably not something that you would always do for a stamp. Stamps are always more neat, the finish of them. But let's just rough it up a little bit to get a shabby chic look and see what it does. It'll either work or it won't. Doesn't look too bad so far. Now I'm just going to flick some colour off on that edge. Not too much colour coming in on the inside, just on the edges. And we've got the start of a giant stamp. So let's glue that down. And just distressing that edge, just that tiny bit has just given it a little point of difference. I think you'll agree we're always looking for something a little bit different in our journals. I'm going to stamp this one without putting it on the a sheet. This one's just going to be straight out on, this is the tea-dyed paper, right? So we can journal on the back of that, and we can journal on the back of that. So that can go into a pocket or a tuck spot and use this giant stamp as a journaling card, or you can glue it onto the page. The bigger ones I showed you, they're glued directly onto the page, but you could definitely use them as journaling cards as well. So I'm not going to glue this on the page first, like this. If I was, it would look quite nice and let the stamp come off onto the page. That would work really well. But I'm just going to do the same as I've done here on this one because I've already glued one onto the page. So let's just look at this one as a free-flowing stamp. I'm just sort of a hit and a miss, so I just didn't put much of the stamp on there at all. Same with this one. I'm going to do the same as I did before, and I'm going to block that out. And I'm going to come off the page. I better put it up the right way, hey? come off the edge. I forgot to remove my little covers, but anyway, do remove them first. Luckily it didn't make a mess. And I'm also going to put the cancellation stamp across here. Take that one off. And I'll add this little tiny one on here for a little bit more interest. Giant faux postage stamps. Great for journaling cards. Glue them straight onto your pages or have them just floating free like this and put them in a pocket. No matter what you decide to use your big faux postage stamps for, they are so much fun to make. I'm Donna, thanks for watching and bye for now.